Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Women Plus Water conversation. And we'll be talking today about women and the cryospheric decade. I am joining you today from Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. This land is the traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis people, and they have cared for these lands and waters for generations. As a settler of this area, I recognize my responsibility to learn, listen, and help steward the water for future generations. I invite all of you who are joining from other territories today to reflect on and recognize the lands and the waters that you do call home and set an intention to have a productive and a positive conversation for the day. So I'm Stacy Demansky. I am an outreach and engagement officer with the Global Institute for Water Security at the University of Saskatchewan, and I'll be your host today for Women Plus Water. For those of you who are new to joining us, welcome. Women Plus Water is inclusive and international community of people who are all connected through water. And we come together to explore the gender dimensions of water research, water management, and decision making. And if you want to learn more about us, please visit womenpluswater.org. There will be a link in the chat. So, the conversation today lands on the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And today is a day that celebrates women's contributions to science and also helps promote equity and opportunity for future generations. And our guests today, they couldn't be more in alignment with the purpose of this day. We are welcoming guests from Inspiring Girls Expeditions, Girls on Ice Canada, and Inspiring Girls Expeditions Alaska. And they're going to be sharing their experience about how inclusive and youth-centered leadership development can really help cultivate the next generation of leaders. These people who are dedicated to protecting the cryosphere. And just a heads up, when we're talking about the cryosphere today, we're going to be talking about the water in its frozen form. So this includes things like glaciers and ice sheets, snow, permafrost, and such. So there has been quite a bit of international attention lately on the cryosphere. And part of this was because the year 2025 was designated as the International Year of Glaciers Preservation. And this was to raise awareness about the importance of the cryosphere and the impending changes that it's experiencing. 2025 also marked the start of the Decade of Action for Cryospheric Sciences. And this effort is a global effort to boost research and action to protect the cryosphere and the billions of people who do depend on it for their survival. The decade emphasizes bringing together diverse ways of knowing and being, and this is to deepen our understanding of a rapidly changing cryosphere. And programs like Inspiring Girls Expeditions and Girls on Ice, they really embody this approach. They show that creating direct and hands-on connections with the cryosphere really strengthens both that scientific understanding and the personal relationships with the cryosphere. So you'll get to hear a lot more about this from our guests shortly, but just before we get started, a few logistics for the event today. It'll be about an hour long and it is live interpreted into French. So if you want to access French, please use that globe in the bottom toolbar. The event is recorded and we'll share it after the event on YouTube and our website in both English and French. There will be an opportunity to ask today's guests questions at the end of the event. So use that Q&A function at the bottom of your toolbar to submit your questions. And thank you to the generosity of our guests today. We invite all of the students and the early career individuals who are attending today to join us post-event to stay on and have an open discussion with the guests. So thank you, all four of you, for volunteering your time to stick around. So speaking of guests, I'm thrilled to be joined today by Jocelyn Hirose, Aaron Pettit, Allison Crisatello, apologies, and Kara Kornhauser. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but you can view their full biographies on our website. The link will be in the chat. So I'll first welcome you, your host for today's conversation, Jocelyn Hirose, who is the co-founder of the Girls on Ice Canada. So Jocelyn, I'll let you take the conversation from here to introduce yourself and the other guests.
Hello, bonjour. Thank you, Stacy, and all of those online for joining us today. I'm sure many of you are very busy. To carve out this time is really precious. So thank you for joining us on the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. Yeah, I'm super delighted to be here. As Stacy mentioned, I'm Jocelyn Hiroshi. My pronouns are she, her, elle, and I'm now an acting climate change and ecosystem scientist in the space of protected areas. I'm one of the 4 co-founders of Girls on Ice Canada and presently the board chair and director of the nonprofit society. I fit this somewhere in between my full-time work and being a mom of 2 very active boys. So I'm super grateful for our whole board comprising of 6 other directors, many volunteer officers, and additional volunteers that make this expeditions happen each year and hopefully grow our impact over time. So I'm situated in Canmore, Alberta, and Girls on Ice Canada is partnered with the Alpine Club of Canada, which is also based in Canmore. And I just want to acknowledge that we're on the lands of the traditional territories of peoples of Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising the Siksika, Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, Tsuut'ina First Nation, and Stoney Nakoda, including Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. These territories are also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So the mission is exactly in the name, Inspiring Girls Expeditions, or IGE, for which Erin has founded. It aims to inspire teenage youth through their curiosity by connecting them to science, art, and outdoor exploration through tuition-free multi-day expeditions led by professional scientists, artists, and guides. Here, I'm not sure if the photos are available yet, but
We'll get those up in a moment. So
okay,
sorry.
no worries, Albert. Soon you'll be seeing a set of photos of our Girls on Ice Canada program from 2018 when our first expedition got launched. It's a 12-day expedition up the Illecillewaet Valley, where it's located in the Columbia Mountains between Revelstoke and Golden. And you'll also see that there's some art and science created during these expeditions. The ones that will be in the slides will be of this past year's expedition, and the participants are led by an artist to explore their curiosities and science instructors to further understand them through the scientific process. So we are, my screen's so small. Okay, thank you for putting the slides up. So Girls on Ice Canada is a branch of the Inspiring Girls Expeditions umbrella. Erin, as the founder of Inspiring Girls Expeditions, will provide more information on how IGE came to be and the philosophy of it. But just so the audience has context, the branches being represented here are, I'm just gonna put it on my screen so I can see it a little better. So we have Inspiring Girls Expeditions Alaska, which Kara is representing. The host institution is the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And then there's Erin Pettit, who's part of the Inspiring Girls Expedition, Oregon State University led expedition. And then there's a whole suite in Europe, New Zealand, and we did invite the Europeans, but the time change was a bit difficult to finagle. And then the New Zealand branch is actually running at this very moment. So we wish them the best with their expedition going on right now. So that's all I have to say. I'm just going to turn it over to Erin to introduce herself, and then on to Ali and then Kara.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Pettit, and I am my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a professor at Oregon State University. And there I'm a glaciologist and climate change scientist. I founded Girls on Ice back in 1999 when I was a graduate student at the University of Washington. And then over the years, it evolved and expanded and engaged many more people, and we created more expeditions, and we became Inspiring Girls expeditions as we expanded. I do want to say right now, I am in Corvallis, Oregon, at Oregon State University. And I do want to note that this is Kalapuya land. We are on the traditional homelands of the Marys River Band of the Kalapuya. And the Kalapuya were forcibly removed back in 1855, sorry. But there are living descendants of these people that are part of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. And Oregon State has really really accepts this, has been really good at trying to be really good about accepting the responsibility and understanding the continuing impact of that history on these communities. It's been really lovely being here. I've been here for 8 years. My background is in physics and engineering. I actually worked back in the 90s on hybrid cars before they were on the road. But I have really loved bringing that physics and engineering knowledge to glaciers and other environmental issues. And that's really why I stepped away from the car industry and into this field, was that I really saw the need to understand our Earth better as we go through some of the climate changes that are happening. So with my team, I use a lot of geophysical tools to observe the glacier change and explore ideas about how glaciers flow, how they fracture, how they grow, and how they shrink within our current warming climate. And so I do everything from using underwater microphones and cameras to listen and watch how glacier ice melts, to watching the glaciers from satellites and seeing fractures through the Antarctic ice sheet. So my projects right now are mostly focused on coastal glaciers, so where the ice flows into the ocean, because these glaciers particularly matter in terms of that the ocean is driving a lot of change, and these coastal glaciers respond rapidly and dynamically to the ocean and atmospheric changes, and all of that directly affects sea level rise. So I will tell you more about Inspiring Girls in a little bit, but I'll pass it on to Allie. Are you next? Oh, we can come
Yes.
we come back to this slide when we introduce more of the background on Inspiring Girls.
Okay. Yes. Well, yeah, thanks again to everyone for taking the time today. Um, my name is Allie Crisatello. I am lots of things, like all of us are, but I'm an ice core scientist, and I'm the director of Canada's National Ice Core Lab. And this photo from about 2 weeks ago is currently your Canadian National Ice Core Lab. I am born and raised and trained in the US. I did my PhD in the MIT Woods Hole Joint Program. And when I finished that, I really had absolutely no idea I would come here to Canada nor stay. I came originally for a 2-year postdoc. And I suppose by fortuitous timing, the funding of the National Lab and then my immediate hire, and also meeting my Canadian wife, meant for sure I was going to stay here for the long term. It took about 2 years to build the lab, and two of the women in the middle there, Anne and Meg, are full-time staff, and we've grown and grown. These are all now masters and PhD students, and this is by no design of my own that we are all women, but we are. But it's a pretty cool spot to have ended up. I think the next photo is just they're a little bit random photos, but we do ice coring all around the world. When I started, I guess during my PhD years, I drilled and thought only about Antarctica. When I started my postdoc, I drilled and thought only about the Canadian high Arctic. And I should say I'm essentially a chemist. We focus on liquid chemistry of ice to tell us various things about past climate. But the middle photo was from last spring on Axel Heiberg Island, a little island at 80 degrees north in the Canadian high Arctic, where we, being a very large team and a lot of countries, drilled a very deep ice core, 613 meters. So we do a lot of polar work. That photo on the right is just a couple hours from where I'm sitting in Edmonton on the Columbia ice field. So we do a lot of this high mountain work too, which I find very gratifying because I like high mountains. And the purposes, or the reasons rather, for prioritizing sites within our group really vary. But I actually love what Erin said, what she highlighted about her background coming in from an engineering angle. I think the backgrounds of everyone in my group, as well as a lot of ice core scientists, when I think about it, it's such a broad range of backgrounds that come to the field, which is one of the things that I love about it and lets us answer questions that we probably couldn't if we all had the same background. But yeah, so we do sort of high altitude non-polar coring and climate reconstructions as well as polar. And the photo on the left is my daughter Winter, which was just to remind me to mention that she's in the ice core lab there, of course. I think over the last 5 or so years, I've tried to make a more concerted effort at sharing the science that I do instead of just doing it 100% of the time, and thinking about my daughter and future generations, and my students who are much smarter than I am, is a lot of it. Yeah, so I'll stop there for now.
Hi, I'm Kara Kornhauser. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really grateful to be included among this really incredible group of women leading the way in cryosphere science. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm calling in from the lands of the Lower Canada Dene people. I'm the program coordinator for Inspiring Girls Expeditions Alaska and have previously been an instructor for the Girls in the Forest expedition. You can see some of the pictures from the 2025 Girls on Ice expedition. I am not up there with them, but I would have loved to have been. They had a great time and they learned so much about the glacier, Golcana Glacier, and have gotten to explore around each year we put that expedition on. Um, I am an ecologist and I study boreal forest pollination for my master's degree. Since then, I've transitioned to doing more science education and putting on different programs. Along with Inspiring Girls Expeditions Alaska, I also coordinate for a program called Fostering Science, which serves foster youth in the Fairbanks area. My experience leading Girls in the Forest trips was always the highest highlight of my year, and I'm really excited and feel very fortunate to be able to continue this work doing coordination for Girls on Ice Alaska and Girls on Water, and hopefully more programs to come in the future.
Wow. I'm learning so much about these ladies, more than I've looked up online or talked to them previously about. So I had no idea some of your background. So thank you for sharing. We'll carry on to our more of the conversation piece, and yeah, this is an informal process, so feel free to just chime in as it sees fit and when you have something to say regarding it. So we're all connected by representing various branches, Alaska and OSU and Canada, of Inspiring Girls Expeditions. And Erin, since you found this IGE organization and has any of your experiences shaped the model you ultimately built with this community? And if you can give us a little bit of background of how you founded IGE.
Sure, yeah. So as you see maybe from some of the photos that we had up before of our research, and these are some photos from the Inspiring Girls Pacific Northwest Oregon State University expeditions. So we can leave those up while I talk, which is great. But as you saw from the photos that Ali and I both had up, research in remote field sites is often physically and intellectually challenging. It's got a combination of challenges. It can be messy, it can be tiring, it can be frustrating, but it can also be beautiful and inspiring and incredibly rewarding. There's a reason we go back and do this all the time. When you add on a layer to any research team, that layer of gendered expectations and norms, which are often, I mean, almost every team I've been on, certainly all of my early career teams, as well as when I was an engineer, were all dominantly male. Like I was lucky if there was one other woman that I had out there. Um, when you add that layer of these gendered expectations, it has led to a lot of women and gender non-conforming people in general just not feeling like they belong. And so there's a long history of glaciology being fairly exclusive. It's a long history of any field science, any field efforts being exclusive. And it takes a lot of energy to overcome that and to make sure that my voice was heard and that my work was valued. And so when I was a graduate student, I'd already realized this coming from my engineering background, both undergraduate and then working in the industry. Um, I wanted to create a space for girls, um, expansive definition even back then, um, to allow them to have a space to explore and challenge themselves and, not be taking showers and be tired and like be confused about scientific stuff, and be able to ask questions outside of those gender norms. And it really, I had some experiences. I had experiences as a kid for sure. I don't think I ever got to really experience that, which is why I really wanted to create something, because I feel like I spent so much energy in my childhood trying to prove that I deserve to be there. And ever since like fourth grade was the first time I remember having an experience where I was like, this does not make sense. Like, why am I being excluded from this? I'm stronger than all of these boys that are sitting next to me. Why are they getting this preferential treatment? Very vivid memories, but that have carried with me. And, and I think things are getting better out there, but that was definitely when I was a graduate student, I really wanted to try to create this kind of a space and reach out and give back uh, whatever I could to make it different for people in the future. And so I kind of just put it out there and was able to get some people to join me in making it happen. And I feel really grateful for all the people who've helped along the way and jumped in and gotten on board. But what it's about for me is being able to see that, explore this landscape with curiosity, allow us to be able to be creative and think about things differently. And it's not about getting to the top of a mountain or accomplishing some goal in the landscape. It's about being there, observing, asking questions, pushing yourself, but the pushing yourself can look like many different things. And often that pushing yourself takes courage. So these are sort of the three words that I really, in my mind, are kind of the foundations of why I do this. Because I think all of us, regardless of your gender, deserve space to do this in a place that feels comfortable and allows you to do things. So it's just been, there were definitely many times along the way where the whole thing looked like it was just gonna fail, whether it was from insurance issues or funding or this or that. But every time I got out there and spent, 12 days with these youth, I would come home exhausted, and then like a day later, I would be refreshed and like talking nonstop about how awesome these kids are and where I think they're going to go and what's going to happen, and just how much, yeah, it's so rewarding to see how much of 12 days can change somebody's life.
Yeah. And that enthusiasm is what led us to want to have more branches in the Inspiring Girls expeditions. Thank you, Erin. Erin was actually the one that introduced the Socratic method to me and how to use it effectively in the field when we started talking about Girls on Ice in 2015. So yeah, thank you, Erin. That was a great recap. Ali, you're one of the founders of Girls on Ice Canada. What was the motivation to bring the program to Canada, and what were the key initiatives?
Well, it's pretty cool when you think about the four of us. We were in, especially you and I, some overlapping spaces, but across the four of us also very different spaces. And I think we all identified the need, basically, is the short answer in our own ways. Because I came from the States, and actually I don't even know if, Erin, you realize this, but for me, my personal answer to that question is that I was a volunteer reader of applications for Erin's original program. It requires lots of different volunteers, and I was just like an application reader, and and I noticed at the time, still being in the States, that there were numerous Canadian applicants to the U.S. program, and I always very much saw and felt the value in the program. I obviously chose it as to use my volunteer time toward in my younger years, and then when I came to Canada and very luckily immediately met Jocelyn through mutual friends. I think it was, some of this shows you the right people just coming together with a shared passion, but almost immediately, Jocelyn, you could speak to your own, like seeing that need in Canada, but I knew right away there are Canadians who are applying for this. Obviously, there's a huge need for it here. And it took us and the other two, Cece Mortensen and Ellie Bash, not so long of us just talking and coming together to realize there was no completely tuition-free program like this that tried very hard to remove most or all of the barriers that exist to kind of expensive costs per participant programs that might look like this. There was just nothing like it in Canada. That was true. So I guess it was on my radar because of volunteering for Erin when I was little. But I think I was reflecting on this question, and a lot of it feels like it came together because the meeting of the right people who all saw that lack and that need at the same time decided to spend time making it happen. And I think, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it took us 3 years of grant writing before, we worked on it for 3 years before we could run our first expedition.
We didn't really pay ourselves the first year.
No. The first year was very bare bones, but
it took some time to get that momentum.
I think I didn't pay myself the first decade. Fortunately, my graduate advisor was very patient with me and was not, supportive. But I do remember those early emails with you, Ali.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember seeing 200 plus applicants of Canadians, and there was only one spot that I think the US programs were willing to take on a Canadian. So it was pretty obvious.
We had a few years with thousands of applications. And then we narrowed our age range a little bit and made some adjustments to try to get that to something a little easier to accommodate. But it just,
I think the sphere too has expanded. I think there's more programs.
There's more opportunities out there for sure.
Which is great. Awesome. Thank you, Ali. Kara, how did you become involved with IGE Alaska? And tell us your experience about being a program coordinator.
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel a little like the odd one out because I didn't start one of these programs. I kind of get to stand on all of the work that everybody else has done that's come before me, and has really set up such an incredible opportunity for so many youth and for young adult and early career scientists and artists and outdoors people to get to work for these programs. So I'm really grateful to all of the work that you all have done. I heard about Inspiring Girls when I was in college, and I think I heard about the Pacific Northwest branch. I was in Salt Lake, and I was kind of like, oh, dang, I'm too old to participate, and that would have been an incredible opportunity as a high schooler. But I always thought to myself, oh, maybe one day I can build up enough experience to be an instructor for one of these programs. And I kind of went on about my life and went to graduate school. I came up to University of Alaska Fairbanks, and it just so happened that there was a branch of Inspiring Girls up here. And I was in class with some folks that had been previous instructors, and I applied to the open pool of instructors, probably before I was qualified, but I was very eager. The only position that year that was open was for sea kayaking guide, and I was not qualified as a sea kayaking guide, so I didn't make it that year. But I applied again the following year, and the Girls in the Forest program was hiring for a science instructor position, and I had done boreal forest ecology and some fire ecology work as well. And so I found myself as the science instructor for Girls in the Forest, based out of the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I was able to instruct for that program for 2 years and had a really amazing experience, like what you all have mentioned, watching participants show up on day one and then leave on day 12 as sometimes totally different people almost. And the experience was so transformative for them. I feel like the experience was transformative for me as well. Seeing that impact and also learning from all of the participants that came from all over the United States. Uh, that was a really impactful experience to me. So when the position came available to coordinate, I jumped at the opportunity to be more involved with planning and implementing the programs, helping select the early career scientists and artists and outdoors people, helping select the participants, and putting together teams that could go out and have these transformative experiences. So I really enjoyed that, the past year of this position, and there's been some ups and downs, as I think there are with any job, but it's overall been a really positive impact on me, and I hope I can have that positive impact on participants and instructors as well.
Thanks, Kara. Yeah, that's it's you're kind of the next generation of, and to see that enthusiasm in you, and I'm sure Erin is just like glowing with passing down the baton to the next coordinators and to those on the ground doing the work on the ground is so important and pivotal to make the expedition successful. So thank you for that perspective. It's a really good perspective to add to this conversation. So how does Inspiring Girls Expeditions and Girls on Ice use mentorship to inspire youth to take on leadership roles, whether it be specifically in the cryospheric sciences or otherwise? And why is it critical for the future of glaciers, or expanded to the cryosphere?
I can maybe start. The others probably have lots to add. I was thinking about when Ali put the picture up of her team at the Ice Core Lab. Similarly, my research team, by no design of my own, is mostly women. I have, there's a few. I've had I have a few men who come and go through the research team, but there is a desire by early career women out there to see and to look to more senior women and to feel like they're in a space where their voice can be heard. And so there is some self-selection. I get lots of applications from women wanting to come to graduate school. It really has not been, it's not designed that way. And I think similarly, some of my male colleagues, actually, the early career men do gravitate towards their leadership. For for Inspiring Girls, it is the mentorship and the leadership training is a big part of it. So we as instructors are, I see it as we are there to be not just a role model, but a role model who's engaged with helping them ask questions about who they are right now and where they want to be in the future. We do not look for all like science geeks who want to go on to do science. We actually don't have that requirement. And so we've had participants go on and do many other things. One, I literally just got a text yesterday from a 2015 alumni who spent 10 years working in international USAID, and she's just come back to the US and is working in kind of community service. I have another student from 2017 who went and did a number of other things and is now back as a graduate student in my program, which is really fun. She's a PhD student now. And so there are many different pathways that our students have taken. One is teaches art on the web. She does some fabulous like art coaching that she spun up during COVID, and that she was a participant in 2010 or 2008. I can't even remember which year she came from. So I actually do try to keep in touch with them, but that piece of like, we talk about this over the course of the expedition, but we actually at the end, we really do ask them that hard question of who are your mentors back home? Like, we don't want them to walk away feeling like, oh no, I'm lost because I had this great experience, but what's next? And so we try to set them up for success in terms of acknowledging who their mentors at home. What does it even mean to be a mentor? And what can you expect from a mentor, and how to reach out and ask someone to be a mentor, even if you're a little bit nervous about doing that, or recognizing who could be a good mentor. And it's been just, yeah, amazing to see where that has taken us. Like, I remember one participant from Kodiak Island in Alaska was pretty sure that the only way she was ever going to be able to go to university was to go into the military to be able to get the military discount. And this was like her primary vision. And we worked with her over the course of the year after she was our participant and helped her look for different scholarships and think about different ways to get into the university system. She ended up being selected as a Gates Millennial Scholar, which fully funds all of your undergrad and your graduate work. So she ended up getting like 8 years of fully covered education because she's so awesome. And we helped her kind of recognize her value and her own values, her own skills and what she could put out there to the world and ask for support. So it's like, that's just a big part of, yeah, what I love doing. So we are the mentors in the moment for challenging in these particular experiences, but we specifically challenge them while we're in the field with ideas about how to step out of your comfort zone, how to lead when you're nervous about leading, and how to then take that home and apply those same kind of emotions and skills in their regular life in the future.
You touched on all the important points. I was just reminded of one of my favorite quotes, I think from an alumni from a post kind of survey that ended with something like, I learned how to be a quiet leader. And I think the reason I love it so much, I guess maybe that's how I think of myself, but also it highlights when the point of a program is really about building like confidence and self-efficacy. It's not like exactly what Erin said. I think probably the biggest myth is it's not just to like create scientists. It's to increase, confidence in whatever it is you do want to do. And of course we've had alumni go after a wide range of different things, and that's amazing. It is not meant to just breed scientists, but it's also not meant to breed some single kind of leader. I think like everything that Erin just talked about just really drives that home. You know, when you're investing in just increasing access to opportunity and allowing that kind of inward looking to realize what your worth and your skills are and all of these things. I mean, I think it lets come to the surface more. What an example. Yeah, like what you're capable of in whatever sphere you want to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just add a little bit to that, to both of what Erin and Allison had said, which is um, having participants be able to see themselves in the instructors through representation is really important. And then also to be able to imagine themselves as scientists and artists and outdoors people in the field because they're doing all of that in a supported and really inspiring place. And they do a science project and they incorporate their art into it and they can present that to the community at the end of their expedition and really get to not only see themselves in professionals in the field, but see it in themselves by doing it in a practical way, which is really amazing.
I just want to bring, I think we often forget with the programs that there's also a lateral component of the instructors themselves to sometimes get an opportunity to lead for the first time, even though they have the skills, the hard and soft skills, they didn't have an opportunity to be a guide or be a scientist, the one in charge to define the questions, etc. And we also provide that for our leadership team. Often, yeah, it might be the head of a university that might be spearheading kind of field work. So this kind of provides that opportunity for young professionals. Erin, just to, I think it was very intentional of the age that you chose for this organization to target. Can you speak to the importance of that for the participants?
Yeah, for sure. We originally had 15 to 18-year-olds, but we chose the kind of high school teenage years because it is a particularly challenging time that is kind of in between. Like there's a lot of science encouragement programs that start in middle school because that is where girls start to fall off from their excitement in elementary school and they start to feel societal pressures to step away from science. And I think those programs are fabulous. We wanted to get them a little bit later and bring on people who think they're not good at science. So we actually want to bring them back into science if they've kind of wandered away a bit. But we also wanted them, like the brains start getting wired differently at like 15, 16, where they can start understanding a little better how they fit in the bigger world. So they can start understanding the societal issues. They have a lot more uh, self-efficacy. They can keep themselves warm and they can be safe in this really challenging landscape. And so we can push them farther than we could if we did a middle school program. And it's sort of where they're starting to make those decisions of what they're going to do next. And so for all of those reasons, the overlap in all of those is that kind of we focus mostly on 16, 17, 18-ish now, because we want them just after their brains are getting wired a little better and but before they make big life decisions going off to their next steps. And so it's been really, really neat to see that. And we've always been open to modifying. Like when I started this, I had some ideas on how we would do it. And we tried it out, but every year we sort of tweaked this or that to try to improve the kind of model that felt like it really got at our goals in the end. And so it took, it was it took a handful of years before we really narrowed in on the right age range that felt good, and the right way to put the content in, and the 8 days. Like the first one we did was like 5 or 6 days, and then we always thought about making it longer, but it seemed like 8 days was sort of the sweet spot. So we're definitely, nothing is ever set in stone. We're always willing to kind of rethink things, but there have been things that have worked pretty darn well, and we sort of try to keep on those. Yeah, in that age group, I actually did run one for college students, and it was a very, very different feel, even though they were only a year older, and a very different experience for them. And I just, I love working with undergrads here at the university, but I felt like for this program, I wanted to focus on the high school age.
Thanks. I talked to some alumni recently, and I really noticed the shift in their thinking of finding a job and going to school, and less expansive in what they're willing to take in. So I noticed that from a young adult perspective to who we target for the program. In terms of standout achievements of your organization, like IGE or branches, can you highlight some of those achievements of engaging the youth in science?
Yeah, for me, those achievements I see them from getting the notes back from parents or the participants themselves. And, one I remember was this card that was written was like, "What did you do to my daughter? She's an incredibly different person than she was 2 weeks ago. I didn't know that 2 weeks could change somebody's life like this." And so, the achievements I just see on that day-to-day basis, getting those notes back. And I know that they go home and they share with their friends. And so unlike some other kind of broad outreach programs where you bring, hundreds of students to a museum or something, that's one approach to engaging youth in the sciences. In this case, we really have a super intense, life-changing experience for them, but then they go and share what they've learned, and they mentor and lead other people. And there's this trickle-down effect, for lack of a better word, where they also, like our program is also getting hundreds of youth engaged. We just do it through this a slightly different mechanism. And I hear that from people, and people will come back and say, "Oh, and it always makes me laugh when somebody's like, 'Oh, have you heard of this program, Girls on Ice? It sounds like you just said something that reminds me of this program, Girls on Ice. Have you ever heard of it?'" And so it just like I've never felt like we needed to be recognized. I don't feel the need to be recognized beyond seeing the impact on the individuals, and coming back and just hearing them, because that's what makes me feel good.
Ali, Kara, do you have any achievements or stories that you care to share? The outcome of?
I was just going to say beyond, you know, that answer, which, yeah, is of course the most important part. It does the piece of it being a very high cost per participant program, makes it very hard, speaking from the Canadian experience at least, to fund. And outside of the impact piece, my second answer to your question, Jocelyn, in terms of success, is that we have run every single year. Just the basic fact that we have run every single year since the first year we ran, it has been unbelievably hard to do that just from a funding standpoint, because of that. And I think that when you have hundreds of applications, like, we know that there is a need still that's not being served, but you also know that impact in the community that every single person who was in the program has is so wide. But it's hard to convince funding agencies of that. but yeah, anyway, that's just to say to show maybe where the bar is, and at least in my own experience working at this point, I'm quite behind the scenes. I mostly work as a grant writer for the organization at this point in Canada, and yeah, we got off the ground originally, I would add, from a private family foundation, the Weston Foundation, and then sort of showed its impact and the need for it in that pilot year, and then received federal funding in the second year, which we have mostly had until now. We do not have it moving forward at the moment. And yeah, so I think there's lots of discussions currently tonight about these things, but I think we'll probably move toward more individual donors and like a model focused more on sustainability and individuals, not political federal funding. But to me, that is also just a huge win for us that we have been able to run every year. We do have, and also, I mean, one other, I guess, benchmark, I suppose, is the people who are running the organization. And when we do have hired positions, the people who are interested and who we hire, I can't believe that we founded something many years ago that has drawn such incredible humans.
And they're getting paid
Yeah.
a decent salary. And yeah, we are not of the past style of women working for free. We're trying to really exemplify what we would like to see in seeing women paid for their skill sets that they have to offer. Kara?
Yeah, I would echo what Allison said about a success being continued funding, and a major success from last year is that we had a loss of funding, and our community came around us and supported us through fundraising. And while that felt like a major loss and was a major loss, it was also a really impactful way for me to enter into the community, which was to see how much the people who love this program want it to happen. And that is just such an incredible thing, and something we hopefully will not have to rely on for a long time, but was really impactful for our season last year. And I would just say another success, back to more of the participants and instructors, uh, seeing folks around UAF who are alumni of the program. I've gotten to meet a few participants who have chosen their college based on what they learned and found, and chose their path of degree based on their expedition. I heard from someone who did Girls on Water and was going into ocean sciences. Um, and also, a major success would be a participant coming back as an on-site coordinator. We still have hope that somebody will come back as an instructor in the future. But it was my first trip, or my second trip rather, as an instructor. Our on-site coordinator was an alum of the program, which was a really special connection to make. So, yeah, lots of successes to be excited about.
Can I just add one more? Do we have time? I'm just thinking bigger in the glaciology community. I struggled in my early career because people didn't quite see the value of something like Girls on Ice. And so, but as it's been around over the years, and the glaciology community internationally has just embraced it and celebrated it. And I do feel like we have had a big impact, not the only one, but a big part in making glaciology more inclusive of women and gender nonconforming people, and elevating the leadership on our field teams and making people think about how to do glaciology better. And so I see that, and I like to think that we had a significant role in it. And I know there's been a lot of people who have joined with us to kind of make glaciology as a field better. And I do appreciate everybody who's joined in on that effort. But it makes me, I love seeing instructors, people who've been former instructors in all places within the glaciology field, and they're stepping up to like lead big deep field expeditions in Antarctica or Greenland or wherever. And it just, yeah, I feel like we've had a big impact on the science and the community, the scientific community in glaciology, and possibly more than that. But
Great. I would say professional guides as well. We hire female guides exclusively, and yeah, it's I think I've seen profound. One of our alumni is actually going to do her ACMG guiding certificate, and so in that space as well. So I think we're out of time. And
Yeah.
I just, oh yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that our Girls on Ice upcoming expeditions and registration deadlines, to put a little pitch in, our youth expeditions, so folks for 16 to 18 years old, for our Illecillewaet and Yukon expeditions has been extended to February 15th, so that's this weekend. And presently, that's funding pending, but we're hopeful. And we often have had lots of comments from parents and teachers, as Kara mentioned, that they wish they had a program like this for adults. And now we do. So Girls on Ice Canada offers 2 4-day expeditions for adults, and these support the youth expeditions. That's Allies on Ice, July 31st to August 3rd, and Women on Ice, September 3rd to 6th. So if you want to get out on glacier and see what our programming is all about, please register for those. And that's it from me, and I'll pass it on to Stacy. Thank you.
Can I just say that the Girls in Icy Fjords expedition has applications due February 16th, so one day after the Girls on Ice Canada expeditions. And the Alaska one is a little bit later, so, right?
The last one is March 15th.
Thank you for adding those.
Fabulous. Thank you guys all so much. I think we could hear you talk for a lot longer. So thank you for offering to stick around after this formal part of our event. We did get a few questions, and I know we're coming into the end of the hour, but I would like to ask at least one or so questions right now, and maybe we can carry on with the other questions post-event if that's all right with everybody. The first one that came in is from a master's student who is working in snow hydrology. Katrine, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. She says, I want to thank you for these inspiring discussions. What is something you wish you had known earlier in your career as a woman in science? I'm actually going to go to Kara first for this one, if that's okay.
Oh goodness, on the spot. I think something I wish that I knew earlier was that my advisors and people that I looked up to are humans, and they are so willing to answer questions in general and to give you advice and to give you support when you need it, and that they also make mistakes and that you should give people a lot of grace, and that they know you're a human too. So yeah, that's my short bit of advice.
I was just going to say that I didn't know that I needed a mentor until I was a postdoc. Like nobody ever even told me what a mentor was, really. And, and as part of that, I didn't know how to advocate for myself. So as a scientist, there are like some papers back then that I actually feel like I probably deserved co-authorship on that I did not get co-authorship on because I didn't know to advocate for myself. And mentors can help you learn when and where and how to do that.
Jocelyn or Allison, do you guys have any advice?
I think they nailed it. I will say, in the position I'm in now, directing a lab and having a group, I really love when I just get cold called by people, particularly, particularly from underrepresented groups. And what Kara said at the beginning, is was my first answer to, um, if you see someone doing something you think you might want to do, and they're in a space and you identify with them in some way, um, like just reach out. Yeah.
I just reiterate that mistakes are part of the learning process. I think this aim for perfection is pretty strong in female circles, and I think we need to dismantle that and just understand that mistakes are part of the learning process.
Fabulous. Thank you. I'm going to ask one more quick question, if that's all right. And then the last question we'll save for the post event. I feel like that will kick off a good conversation there. So the next question is, what role does failure or ambiguity, so like, for example, unexpected field conditions, play in the experiential learning, and how do you help students reflect on those moments?
Allie, do you want to go first, or do you want me to? I would say we lean into that. Like we actually talk about the ambiguity, the questions, the challenges, the uncertainties that come up from day one, and we intentionally share the thinking process. Like if the weather's changing, we don't like huddle up as instructors and decide what to do. We open that conversation up, recognize, what input the participants can have. We listen to what they think is going on. We explain to them all of our thought process on how to handle this. And we always we totally lean into this the uncertainties of the field, because they happen every single day. They happen whether it's somebody is just overtired and needs to rest for a little longer than we expected, or the weather changes, or there's a particular dangerous pathway that didn't used to be dangerous. We totally lean into that and make that part of the learning process. I love it. That's why I love field science, because you get thrown something new every day. It's like, oh, how am I going to solve this problem?
Very true. Does anybody else have their own experience they'd like to share? All right. Oh,
Oh,
Jocelyn.
I was just gonna, our first expedition at the Asalkan Hut, we had this grandiose goal of getting it to a summit, and with the collaboration and understanding of risk management with our guide, and then in talking to the girls and what their goals were, and they came collectively together to decide to do a sub peak as opposed to this quite committing route up a very receded glacier. So that's kind of the piece that yeah, that builds character, I think, in those ladies.
Fabulous. Well, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but thank you guys so very much for the conversation today. It was a really good discussion, and honestly, I think there's a lot of takeaways that people can, take away from today. And also to everybody who attended today, who are still on here, thank you so much. We really thrive as a community because of all of you guys. So thank you for that. We do offer up, as Women Plus Water, we do offer up a multitude of opportunities like conversations like we're having today, or our Women Plus Water expert list, and also mentorship opportunities through our mentorship circles. So we'll be hosting our next event on our conversation, I should say, on Thursday, March 19th, in recognition of World Water Day and align with the theme of water and gender. So if you want to register, there will be a link in the chat, I believe, for you to join us for that one. And if you guys have any questions for us, Women Plus Water, don't hesitate to reach out at womenpluswater at usask.ca. And of course, I do want to take the time to thank everybody who works behind the scenes at Women Plus Water. That includes our founder, Corn Schuster Wallace, Viviana Barrero Nino, Tara Hackle, Jesse Widow. They all put a lot of work into this kind of initiative. And of course, thank you today to Val and Julie from In Other Words Incorporated for the live and French interpretation, and our sponsors, the Global Institute for Water Security and the College of Arts and Science here at the University of Saskatchewan. So thank you all for being here. And at this time, we invite any of the students, early career professionals, if you want to stay on to have a discussion with today's guests. We have about another 25 minutes if you guys want to engage a little bit further here. So at this time, we'll end the recording and thank you all for being here today.